Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earp Sister Feels, episode number 16. My name is Kevin Batchelder, and on this video, I'm going to be discussing the Wynonna Earp episodes I See a Darkness, which is Season 2, Episode 10, and also, technically, I'll include Gone as a Girl Can Get, Season 2, Episode 11. A little more on that later. But welcome back for those of you that are regular viewers, and also a special welcome for any of you that are new to these videos. I have a blast recording my thoughts here during my rewatch of the first 3 seasons of Wynonna Earp. Here during hiatus, and getting some thoughts from you folks too. If you are new to these or have been watching all along and wondering, yes, I love to get comments from the community. For about the first 48 hours after these are released, you'll notice that down below there's a button that says record a reply. And you can record a video yourself with your thoughts on these particular episodes. You know, you can record it, play it back, make sure you're comfortable, and then save and send it to me. And then I take and put some of those comments along with my thoughts together on a final version that goes up on YouTube. So the community aspect is what makes these so much fun. So feel free to jump in. Everyone is invited. All right, now, one point to get across. I know many of you that have been along for the whole time we're doing these are aware that I've talked about the upcoming Earp Expo in New Orleans that we're very much looking forward to, and myself moderating the Earp Sister panel with Mel and Dom. So I mentioned recently on Twitter and Facebook that if you are going to be at the convention and you are a big Earp Sister fan, which I'm sure most of you are if you're watching this video, we're going to try to do a group photo shoot for all of us that are there that have Earp Sister t-shirts. Tentative plan is to do it right after that panel, and we don't know the time and day yet, so a lot of this is to be determined. But I'm mentioning in case you're interested in being in that, I do have a DM list I've set up on Twitter, so feel free to reach out. Let me know if you're interested, and then that way as the details kind of come together, I'll let everyone know. So it should be a lot of fun, all of us that are Earp Sister fans in one big photo. You know, nothing professional, just all of us getting together after the panel and, you know, in the hallway or in the room where the panel takes place or something. We'll take a quick photo or two there just to have fun and talk about our love for the Earp Sisters. So, like I said, do reach out if you're interested there. So to talk about these episodes, kind of to go from the end back to the beginning, as I mentioned at the very start, I would include episode 211, Gone as a Girl Can Get, only because I want to make sure to include all the titles in these videos, but there are 0 Earp Sister scenes in that episode, so technically there's nothing there to talk about. Certainly some impactful stuff, but you know, there's not really scenes I'm going to talk about there. I'm going to mainly focus on 210, I See a Darkness. Now, we have near the very beginning of the episode, not really an Earp Sister scene, but to finish up on what I touched on, the very opening scene there when we have the big fight scene with Widow Mercedes and Nicole and Waverly, that was a scene that we were very blessed, myself and Bonnie and Bridget, during our set visit to be able to see them film that scene, which was just amazing to see all the aspects of certainly shooting Wynonna Earp, but also a fight scene like that with stunt coordinators and stunt people and all of our stars, and to be right there in the middle of it. Pretty amazing stuff, and it's a very cool scene too. So that was kind of neat. I happened to be standing in the kitchen area, as many of you know from some of the photos I shared, just out of sight of the camera, for the portion of the scene near the very end when you see Waverly after, you know, Widow Mercedes has left or is leaving or whatever after she's bitten Nicole. She runs in quickly to the kitchen to grab the gun. I was actually standing there, just, again, as I say, out of sight. I could have reached out and grabbed Dom's arm. I was so close. So that was some pretty cool stuff there. It was also pretty neat, too. We watched the scene a little later, not an Earp Sister one, but the one where Doc and Wynonna are there at the house, and they come across Calamity Jane in the closet. So that was pretty cool to know that we were going to be all meeting Calamity Jane at one point. I mean, certainly Mel's pregnancy was the big thing we had to keep quiet for 4 months, but also knowing that we were going to finally get a chance to see the cat. I know a lot of folks were looking forward to it. So that was just some cool stuff there. And we talked a lot about that in our set visit podcasts. If you haven't listened to those, again, reach out, let me know. I'll point you to those because we had a lot of fun there. But as far as Earp Sister stuff here in this episode, near the very beginning, we have the hospital scene as Nicole is going in and Waverly is with her. And you know, Wynonna comes across her and has to talk to her and try to calm her down a little bit. And Wynonna lets out that she knows what the third seal is, you know, and watching Waverly be as upset as she's going to be in this episode, you know, no spoilers, but for any of you that are also big Buffy fans, you know, we used to always say, still do, but that whenever Willow cries or Willow is in jeopardy, the whole fandom would get on edge and upset. And that's very much what it is here with Waverly. So seeing how distraught she is in this episode and how often she's emotionally, on the verge of tears or crying makes it hard for all of us. And, seeing the scene with the two of them, Wynonna trying to center herself with everything that's going on and realize that Waverly needs some support is some pretty cool stuff. We have another shorter scene not long after that, still at the hospital with Jeremy, when they're trying to talk about how they need to come up with a venom, some antidote or whatever they're going to do. It's pretty somber. Again, not the fun stuff to rewatch, certainly, when you're thinking about the jeopardy the characters are in and characters we care about, but still some very cool stuff. And then the big scene from the Earp Sister point of view. As the whole episode plays out and Wynonna is able to, come up with the cure, doing as, she does, pushing the envelope and having some repercussions from that later on. But also Waverly being at the point with Widow Beth of finally having to give in to, get the help that she needs to take care of Nicole. I mean, it was so heartbreaking to watch, as a viewer, the two different storylines happening, and especially with Wynonna not aware. When she finally does have the cure and she is literally strutting through the halls of the hospital, and that she's probably going to come across the fact that it won't be necessary. And when she does walk in the room and Nicole's sitting up and all, I mean, this is another one of those ones I mentioned where, man, you can just turn down the sound and look at the facial expressions on Dom's face and on, Mel's face. You can just see both sides of that. Waverly realizing that she had to do it and that she's, given up that seal and what it's going to mean, but she had to. That was the only thing she saw. And the disappointment from Wynonna, still trying to be the supportive sister, but, I told you to wait, I gave you my word that I'd get a cure, and I did. Oh, man, it just hurts. Hurts physically to watch that, but truly appreciate how well it was done there. So some good stuff. So, yeah, as I said, nothing specific in 211, but we got some big stuff coming in 212, as all of you know. So looking forward to talking about that. So appreciate you folks tuning in. Looking forward to getting some comments. Having a blast here as we work our way through the whole series leading up to Earp Expo. So going to be a lot of fun. So appreciate you all tuning in. Hope you all take care.
Hi, I'm going to talk about all the emotional Earp Sister Feels for Season 2, Episode 10. I just want to start off by saying a phenomenal episode. Once again, the writers, phenomenal writing. I loved the staging of some of the scenes that I'm going to talk about, just how much, the space in which each character can create so much drama for a scene. And again, the acting is top notch and so emotional. So yeah, the first scene, Waverly is telling Wynonna what happened with Nicole, as Nicole's being rushed into the hospital. I loved that Wynonna didn't provide any snarky comments. She could see how much Waverly was hurting, and she was just there for her, and she wanted to be that rock. So I really appreciated such a real moment between the two of them. And then kind of fast forward the scene when they're going over what they know about the widows. Again, Wynonna doesn't say much either, and the way that she looks at Waverly, that says everything. There's a moment when Wynonna takes a deep breath, and I mean, it gets me every time. Melanie Scarfano's face, she could move mountains with a look. And then Wynonna, she's there for her sister. She doesn't know what to do yet. She's going to try her hardest to figure out, and Waverly, she says, can't we all just act like we're winning for once? In that moment, she knows that saving Nicole, it's not going to be easy, and it might be impossible, and she's not going to stop trying. And I think she says that not only for them, but for her, to keep fighting. And you can tell just all of the emotions are bubbling up, kind of like when you have a can of soda and you keep shaking, and then something so small can kind of burst that bubble. When the mug breaks, it's like all of those emotions come bubbling over and boiling over. And for Waverly in that moment, it's like she's lost Nicole, and she calls to Wynonna, what if we can't fix it? What if we can't fix it? It's like, what if we can't fix Nicole? So, I mean, I love that there's such a bond between them, and, they're there for each other. You can just tell how much Wynonna cares for Waverly and doesn't want her little sister to ever feel that kind of pain. And at the same time, like, you can tell Wynonna, she feels that pain because she can't take it away for Waverly. And it isn't really until the end of the scene when they have a plan that Wynonna, makes the comment about Doc and the tracking that he can do. And so, once they have a plan, she tries to distract Waverly with the funny comment, and it's just such an emotional scene. And kind of fast forward to the end, Wynonna, strutting down, she's got what she needs to fix Nicole, and she can't wait to share with Waverly that she made her promise and she got the cure for Nicole. And then as soon as she steps into the hospital room and sees, Nicole wake, and then she sees Waverly, she instantly knows that Waverly did something huge. And it's, that look of disappointment, almost disgust, that, she told Waverly that she was going to get what was going to help Nicole, and she promised that. And it's like, how could Waverly go and do what she did when Wynonna made that promise? And then of course with Waverly not wanting to let Wynonna down, she just can't help but to run away. Definitely an emotional episode for sure. All the feels, I love being able to laugh and cry and kind of go through the emotions. And the Earp sisters are definitely the heart of this show. And, I have all the comments, but I'll leave it at that. And yeah, bye.
Hello, I just wanted to say a real quick comment about episode 210. My big thing with the Earp sisters is just that Wynonna is constantly choosing Waverly, and she does so again 3 times in this episode, really huge moments. And this is the second time that we see her choose Nicole in order to choose Waverly, which is really we don't really get to see Waverly and Wynonna talk about how Waverly feels about Nicole or where their relationship is, etc. But there are a handful of moments throughout the series where you can tell that Wynonna knows what it means to Waverly. And this episode, when Nicole asks Wynonna essentially to pull the plug if that is what everything comes to. And Wynonna says yes, even though it's going to cause her a great deal of pain to have to do that, and on an already super guilty conscience. And she agrees for the sake of Waverly. And this is the first time in this episode that we see Wynonna get angry at Waverly. Truly angry. And I think that is also important, because I think up until now, Wynonna has very clearly made a ton of decisions to literally just benefit Waverly, not benefit herself, sometimes not even benefit the curse, but just Waverly. And then Waverly betrays her. And I think that it was important to show Wynonna be frustrated about that, because it was kind of a big deal. And then she's literally gone for the entire next episode, and I think they do a really, really great job at just showing the huge hole that Wynonna leaves when she's not there, and Melanie also. Like, we miss her immensely during that one episode that she's not in. But really, I just wanted to comment on the fact that yet again, we have Wynonna making decisions for the sole benefit that it is going to make Waverly a little happier or a little better off or a little more at peace. And there's always more to come on that end of things because she is like the biggest big sister ever. So, thanks.
Hi guys, Terry Ann here. I'm going to talk about Season 2, Episode 10 and 11 for Earp Sister Feels. And in Episode 10, I was just thinking that it must have been so hard for Wynonna to have that conversation with Waverly about keeping the information about the seal a secret. Because on one hand, she literally has to keep that information a secret to protect everyone else until it's time to enact the plan to break the seal. The less people who know, technically, the safer it is for them. But on the other hand, Wynonna once again has to take on this burden on her own. And it means that she's kind of moving backwards in terms of opening up and sharing things with her sister. And as a viewer, it's especially hard because we can see that Waverly just sees that Wynonna withheld a huge piece of information from her. And this is kind of bringing back issues of trust and worthiness. So to Waverly, it's like Wynonna isn't thinking about her at all. But Waverly doesn't see, which we as viewers do see, that Wynonna is trying to move heaven and hell to fix the situation and save this person who is so important to Waverly. And so Wynonna is literally thinking only of Waverly now that the situation is so dire. And also, I just thought it was fantastic to see Wynonna so confident in her abilities to get the job done. When they're talking about getting more venom and Wynonna tells Waverly that they're not losing anyone else, it's like Wynonna knows that when it comes to her sister, failure is just not an option. There's no maybe or if. She just designates jobs to everyone, and she's just going about things as if this is standard procedure. And at the end of the day, they're just gonna get the job done as a team because, of course, they will. There is no other outcome because it has to do with Waverly. And then when they do finally make the anti-venom, the scene between Wynonna and Waverly is so painful to watch because it's full of all of the emotions with the elation and then the confusion, then the disbelief and the betrayal. And it's even more intense because the stakes were so high. And it basically required both sisters to put everything that they had and all of their trust in the other. And it just didn't pan out. Wynonna feels awful because she was betrayed, and Waverly feels awful because she doubted her sister and her team when she didn't need to. And it's just all of the gut punches because it becomes kind of a question of how big of a risk is it worth it to take to save someone you love. And there's no easy or clear answer. But with love involved, it's so easy for people to get hurt. And then in episode 2:11, like Kevin said, there aren't really a ton. Actually, I don't think there are any physical scenes between the Earp sisters, but they do have quite a few shout outs to their relationship. And so the one that I want to talk about was when Doc is dying in Waverly's arms and he calls her baby girl, and it immediately triggers some part of Waverly's memory. And that just got me right in the feels. The bond between these two sisters is so deep that basically just a code word can reignite the spark that this shading, disappearing Wynonna spell tried to snuff out. And especially because Wynonna is the one who usually calls Waverly baby girl, hearing that nickname just kind of like rekindles the flame of their bond. And it was just great to see that even though the Earp sister bond can be put to the test time and time again, and there's literally an attempt to erase it from memory, their bond will not be broken, and it's gonna keep on surviving. And it's sort of like, us Earpers and our fight right now for our show. We're gonna keep that flame going. Hashtag fight for Wynonna, of course, and always. So that's all I got. And I will see you guys in another video. Bye.
Hello, Jill here, Nedley's office. It's a Friday night. It's no better time to talk about Earp Sister Feels. Let's talk about 210 and 211, two of my favorite episodes. But on the other hand, let's be honest, you could name two episodes and I'd go, yes, two of my favorite episodes. But these two episodes, well, particularly 210, it was just an acting tour de force by both Dominique and Melanie in this episode. They both just like blew me out of the water with this episode. But before I get to that, I want to say this wasn't an Earp sister scene together, but the scene with when Nicole was, before she had been put under, and she was asking Wynonna to not let her be kept alive on a machine, and saying that you're the only one that Waverly would ever forgive, so you have to do it. And I thought that was, this really strong statement about these two women that were both thinking about Waverly. And the only, their main concern in this time of crisis was Waverly. And both Nicole and Wynonna, and, Wynonna's agreeing to take on a pretty big deal of saying, yeah, I'll pull the plug on you. I'll break my sister's heart because, yeah, she will forgive me. And I'm the only person she'd forgive for that. It wasn't a scene between the two sisters, but it was a really meaningful scene about the Earp sisters and Nicole and Waverly and all three of them. And then when I just want to focus on when I mentioned that this was an acting tour de force. There are two scenes, and the first scene was when it was with Jeremy and with Dolls, and Waverly / Dominique, she had this lip bite and she was breaking down. She clearly was just on the edge, and you could feel it with Waverly. You were with her about to break down. And you were just in that moment, and Wynonna came up and said, do you trust me? Do you trust us? And Waverly said yes. And because of what those, the actresses involved, you were there. You were like, Waverly trusts Wynonna. I trust Wynonna. Which only then exacerbates the heartbreak at the final scene, or nearly the final scene, when Wynonna has found the cure and waddles down the hall with, holding this cure that she had gotten, only to find that Waverly had done something that indicated she didn't trust Wynonna. and you could see the heartbreak on Wynonna's face. That the expression Wynonna had in that scene of "What have you done?" It's literally not an expression I have seen on any other actress's face. When I watched it live, I went, I feel this. And you could feel that, like, why, as much as I love Waverly, I was like, why, Waverly, didn't you trust Wynonna? It was a heartbreaking scene. And kudos to Dominique and Melanie for this episode, because they pulled me right in. I felt everything they were feeling. And that was because of how they portrayed these two sisters. So kudos. And then, the next episode, it didn't have any of Earp Sister stuff. 211, Gone as a Girl Can Get, because Waverly, or rather Wynonna, wasn't there. But what I loved about 211 loved and hate, Waverly, she didn't like being an Earp. She actually said, when she was talking to Nicole, she was like, ugh, Earp, what a terrible name. And this is totally opposite of what we think of Waverly. Well, at least what I think of Waverly as the Earpiest Earp that ever Earped. And she didn't like the Earp name. And that was all because Wynonna wasn't in her world. And it again brings the impact of what Wynonna means to her, has meant to her, and just the impact that these two sisters have on their lives. So, two of my favorite episodes, like every other two episodes, are my favorite episodes. So there you go. I'll see you next time. Thanks.